What do you hear when you hear the term, this too shall pass? Do you hear comfort and reassurance and hope? Or do you hear bypass of my feelings and you're not listening? I gotta say that both might seem right on certain days, and it's up to you to know where it lands for you, if it works or if it doesn't work. Let's explore both sides. I'm Dr. Trish Phillips, psychotherapist, a mama of adults, and mostly an inner child advocate. I could be your inner child advocate too. Today on Doodle to Connect, we are going to look at the phrase, this too shall pass, and see how it lands inside. Sometimes it lands as reassurance, and sometimes it may land with annoyance. There's no right or wrong, because all is true if it's inside of you. And it's all about perception, right? So first, let's explore the concept of this too shall pass. It's something that I became familiar with when I started recovery back when I was 18. I was one of those people who had the bumper sticker on the back of my little Toyota Tercel. I would drive around and I would keep that in my mind, and it helped me a lot. But what it meant was that the bad, the negative, the feeling that I was feeling, this would pass. The hard parts would pass. But what I came to realize as I grew and got older is that also the good parts pass too. Nothing stays the same. That's the concept of impermanence. Nothing in our life stays the same. Nothing right now, nothing this afternoon, nothing tonight, nothing tomorrow morning, nothing next week, nothing 6 months from now, nothing a year from now. All right, you get my point. Everything is always changing. We are always changing. The cells inside of us are always changing. How could things not be changing? So this too shall pass. But let's look at how it lands inside of you. And again, I want to reiterate, there's no right and there's no wrong, because everything's going to land inside of us based on what's going on inside of us in that moment. And again, that might be different later on today than it is right now. So, positive aspects of this too shall pass. It brings us comfort and reassurance in times of hardship. You know, that can feel like temporary relief to remember that when there's a lot of pain going on. Another positive aspect of this too shall pass is that it gives us perspective, like a broader perspective, that life is full of cycles and seasons and all the different things that change with it. When we think about this too shall pass, it can give us the encouragement to persevere. If we can remember that this is temporary and it's going to pass, something else will come about in a month, 2 months, 3 months, we can keep going. It helps us to remember that we can practice acceptance and be mindful of the present moment without attaching to negative emotions. Another positive effect of the this too shall pass statement is that it can help to reduce anxiety. I mean, when we think that a current problem will last forever, anxiety is high. But when we can remember that this situation, this feeling, this thought is temporary, it can help us to bring our anxiety level to a more manageable state. So some of the negative aspects of this too shall pass that you might experience from time to time is it can feel dismissive of your present feelings. Like, I should just wait for this to pass instead of looking at it right now. Another thing I've seen is that it can lead to like an avoidance of action. So instead of taking like a proactive stance to help yourself, you might just wait because you know that, well, this too shall pass. And one thing that's super important to remember is that we don't want to trivialize someone's big struggle or trauma with the saying, this too shall pass. It can feel very minimizing and be very hurtful You know, I've also seen it where it can give this false sense of optimism, like, I don't really have to do anything because this too shall pass. That's not always the case. And one thing that can be really hurtful is it can lead to this feeling of frustration and hopelessness. So someone might repeatedly hear, this too shall pass, and yet they don't see any change in their situation. So they take it upon themselves that something might be wrong with them. You know, this is a long-standing phrase that's been in my life, but it just has been really prominent lately. And I see it like the boat going down the river and see it just gently drifting down the little stream. So for me, at this point in my life, it's bringing me great comfort. At other times, it's also brought me frustration. So I use it sparingly when I'm talking to others because I want to make sure I know the state that they're in before I just bring out any phrase, really. How do I do that? I listen, I check in with my empathetic heart, and I offer support, especially when they're addressing something very serious or like a persistent concern or issue for them. I don't ever want to bypass someone's lived experience or someone's present experience right now. But I do want to be able to give them little snippets of comfort. And sometimes this too shall pass because nothing stays, especially feelings, forever. I'm curious your take on this. It might be different today than it was a few years back in a different situation. Funny when we think like that, right? With sayings or poems or mantras, song lyrics. See you next time.